Now for the second time is between 2017 2018 while I was at the apartment, the extended stay. I didn't have a car. I was walking, and I finally got a part-time job working across the street from the job that I worked at, which helped because working at the grocery store and then working at a restaurant, I was able to minimize payment as far as groceries were concerned because the money that I made from the grocery store, I was able to pay the rent, the weekly rent, because I got paid every week by that company, and then the money that I was able to work the part time job was for any other bills that I had, which helped out a great deal. Um, then when I lost that first job due to the fact that they pretty much, it was a setup. I realized it was a setup, but it was all fun and games the way that they set it up. But I was all right. So I ended up going full time with the part time job, which also still kind of helped as far as making the money what I needed. I was making much less. Um, I kind of struggled paying for the rent because I was getting paid every 2 weeks, and I couldn't pay them the fully, but I could give them what I could, and they worked with me because they realized what was going on. They were being nice, but they realized what was going on. Of course, I got threatened a lot too, but still. And the more I actually did that, when I got fired, I realized I forgot that I had 401k. So I called 401k and got a loan. And no, I actually just cashed out. I ended up cashing out. When I cashed out, I got some money, and my niece at the time helped me find an apartment. The apartment that I was looking for, they didn't even know it was me. So they sent me down the road. And so when they sent me down the road, I went around and looked around at the apartment. And I really did like it. I really loved it. And they allowed me to fill out an application and gave me an opportunity to wait to see if I was approved. Around that time I was waiting for the approval, I was sitting on the bed. Now, this happened before. I was sitting on the bed and I was just looking around and I was watching TV at the extended stay, and I'm like, somebody's about to die. A couple of days later, my mother passed, and my children were calling me crying. They were upset because they loved Mama. They loved her, and so I was calming them down, letting them know that Mama was tired and she was just ready to go. So they were okay, but the funeral was not good for them. The funeral was not good at all. But I was approved for the apartment. And when I got the apartment, I ended up being able to stay there for 4 years. And I enjoyed it because it was just me. I didn't have nobody with me, it was just me. Being able to have that rest, being able to be separate from all the mess that I had been through, I was glad to have that peace. And working that job, I got transferred to Mebane. And I actually was sharing my car with my daughter. That became a problem because my daughter, she was jumping from job to job, and she finally found a job, a third shift job, which kind of helped out as far as timing, because the job that I had was not as bad, but It was okay. There was a lot of conflicts going on, but it was nothing unusual, nothing crazy, but it was like a lot of conflicts. But I went to end up going to the job that she went to. I applied for the job and I got the job. I was supposed to have gotten the job earlier, but I think it was like a miscommunication, or there was something going on with my phone as well. My phone was being messed with big time. So when I got the job, I got the job in April. Yeah, it was in April of 2021. April of 2021. And I started working third shift. And I actually really enjoyed some parts of the job. I knew that when I got the job, there were going to be some clicks. Third shift is not what you call um, whatever. Anyway, third shift is unique. I can say it like that. Third shift is unique. They have the groups here and there. And when I got the job, um, of course, you had your unique folks come around and trying to inquire. You had the groups of guys wanting to see what was going on. Um, you had the older people that had been there for years. You had the younger people who were just there. And there was always something going on. Always something going on. Always. But I liked the time. It was like from 9 to 5:30 in the morning. I did that in one department. And then I got transferred to another department. And I worked from that department for like 5 months. So like from November back into April of 2022. And I worked there for a while. I enjoyed that section. That section shut down because of the fact that the company was closing down the areas due to the fact that they were transitioning over to another way, another type of manufacturing. And when I actually went back to my old position, the supervisor passed away in June. But I think I found out when I transferred again from one department, from the old department that I worked to first, to another department that the time had changed. Now, I really loved that time. It was 11 to 7:30 in the morning. I loved that one because you could just literally do anything during the day and still get sleep and still be able to get up and go to work at 11 at night. And so what had happened, I ended up working that department, and that was a department that apparently nobody really liked to work because it was so, the machine itself was kind of unique to have to work. But I thank God for teaching how to be able to learning how to be able to maneuver the machine, that we were able to make the number many nights. And at the first time I ended up working there, I was working with a girl, and she didn't stay there long. She left and ended up going to another manufacturing company. Then I ended up working with an Asian guy, and he was awesome. He was an awesome worker. But I mean, I enjoyed it. Then came the trials, the trials and tribulations. This is what really happened. I had been there technically. It was, I'm breaking it down. It was technically going past 2 months, 2 years. It was going past 2 years that I had been there, and I went back to another part-time job that I was working at a grocery store. But this was like the small convenient type store. It wasn't the grocery store that I worked at first, but it was another grocery store that I was working at when I was working at the restaurant. When I lost the job at the grocery store, you understand. I don't want to give no names, but I went back there and I started working there during the day, working third shift, 11 to 7:30, and then going to working there like from like 9 to 3 or something like that. A couple of days out of the week to help out. So I was working at 11 to 7:30, and then there was another section that was actually working the same hours. That's when this man showed up. I'm sitting in the cafeteria one night, minding my business. I eat by myself, and a lot of times I always ate by myself. I never really ate with, I never sat there in the cafeteria a lot. It would be like once or twice out of the month that I would sit there in the cafeteria with all those people. I couldn't really sit there. So at that time, I was sitting there by myself, and the guys from another department would come and sit in there, and they would be back there sitting in the corner talking. And then this particular guy came and talked to me, and he asked me who I was, and I knew something was up. So when he asked me who I was, he wanted to know me, wanted to know if I could take him out to, if he could take me out to eat or whatever. And I really didn't give him a response. I'm like, I'm by myself. I'm healing. I don't really want to talk to anybody right now. I don't really want to fool with anybody right now. And the very thing came out of his mouth and said, I want to shoot my shot. And I'm like, oh God, here we go. So he was talking about he wanted to spend some time. So it took about I'm thinking about 2 or 3 weeks before I actually done anything. Gave him my number. And then it took even longer for him to even take me out, because I told him I was in my healing. And I was meaning that I didn't even know anything about spirituality. I didn't know anything about it. But that's what I was really needing to do, was to get by myself. After what I had went through with the hotel, I really wanted to just be by myself. I didn't want to fool with nobody. So he was determined, didn't really realize why he was determined. Didn't know, didn't understand about all this stuff. So when he came around, I finally gave him my number, and then after that he kept texting me, and then I gave my address. He came up because it was a gated apartment complex. And when he came, he took me out. No, the first time we went out, I drove. He drove and I drove. Thank you. He drove and I drove. So I drove my own car, but at that time I wasn't sure. So, but when I went on anyway. Met him at the place that I wanted to go to, because I wanted to go to that specific seafood restaurant. I love that one. I love that place. So we went in there, and of course, when you go in, you have 2 different doors that you can go through. You have the main floor, you have the entertainment section over here, and then over here in the corner, that's where he wanted to go, way over in the corner. I said, oh, that was number 2. I'm not going to tell you what number 1 was, but that was number 2. I can't tell you what number 1 was. Number 1 was a trip. Number 1 red flag was a trip. So what had happened was that we sat there. He started asking me all these questions and stuff, and he was just, really pretty much just trying to I would say check my temperature to see where I was. And I told him, about what was going on. I was working, minding my business. I ain't bothering nobody. I ain't been with nobody. I'm looking for nobody. I don't want to be with nobody. And I'm just plain out being honest with him. So this thing with him went on for about almost a year. It was almost a year. It wasn't that long. It was just almost a year. But what happened and what he had attempted to do and what he was told to do, what he was told to do didn't work. And it was by God's grace, because God revealed it to me. And when God revealed it to me, I told him at one point in time that God had told him. And I told it to his face what God had said. God had said that if you really wanted to be with me, you would stay. But as soon as you walk out that door, You made up your mind what you want to do. God said you wanted to be with somebody. And God said he wants you to make your choice. And as soon as I got through talking, he got up and walked out the door. Clip. That was it. But he kept calling. He kept calling back like ain't nothing happened. That's the narcissistic way. Like ain't nothing happened. And being with him, I didn't realize what was going on in the background. And so he came back. And then he purposely was already intoxicated. Purposely already being intoxicated. He was planning on staying there. And I don't know what his plan was that night then, but I understood what he was trying to do that night then. And it didn't work. It did not work. And I'm not saying that I'm all perfect. Now I have debt that I had to pay. I had to go through something, but I was willing to do it. Because like I said, I was in that place where I wanted to be back with God. Because over the years before 2014 and even up to today, I had multiple people who had tried to get me in a place where I was so far from God. And people were being sent my way to keep me from connecting with God. And now that I have been connected with God, God didn't got, I mean, when I was sitting at my job one night working third shift, I heard God say, it's not your problem. This is not your battle. That really literally meant, don't you say anything. Don't you respond. Don't you act out. Don't even quote Bible scriptures. Don't even quote Bible scriptures. Unless I give you something to say, don't you do anything. That's what that meant. It's not your battle. Mind your business. Live your life. Because wherever God had me at that time, there were multiple people who were trying to attack me, bully me, narcissistically manipulate me. And it applies to that verse that I kept telling my daughter, and it applies to that verse that I kept telling a friend on TikTok. Wherever you go, wherever you are placed, and God doesn't place you in an area by accident. When you actually obey God and you're doing according to as he has spoken unto you to do, Matthew chapter 10 verse 15 applies to you. Whenever you're in a place, an environment, doesn't matter where it is, at home, family, church, work, whatever, and you do not respond in the way that will affect you, if you do as what thus said the Lord for you to do, and don't respond as the flesh wants you to respond, it is woe be unto them. Because like he said in that scripture, it'd be better if they tied a millstone around their neck and placed in the deepest part of the sea. And now a lot of people are going through all of this because of the fact that they realize that since they got me put out my apartment, I finally had a place to stay for 4 years. Lost it. And people were happy. They were celebrating. I know they were celebrating because I can tell through the text that they were sending. The certain texts that they were sending to not really check on you, but to say, I know what you're going through. Ha ha, ha ha. And I understand it. But right now, you're not laughing because of the fact of what God is doing now. God has already set it up and he's already doing his work. And you already realized that everything that you said and you done in his name Regardless if you're saying that you serve him or don't serve him, you're feeling his wrath. And he's not done. Because of the fact that I am innocent, I haven't done anything to you. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I just obeyed what God told me to do at that point in time. And I left. And things are still okay for me. It's still okay for me, but to God be the glory. I'm not going to sit here and whine and complain. When things got to the point where people were trying to move themselves out of the picture, God was showing me other things that I could do. When I couldn't do this, God was showing me something else to do. Because God taught me through my father. And I thank God for him being in my life. That you don't never expect anybody to be around you when it comes to when you need to get anything done. Work as if you're going to do it by yourself. If somebody helps you, good. If they don't help you, good. Always figure it out. Figure it out. Figure it out. Do what you need to do. And I learned that from my father. I learned a lot of things from my father and my mother. I learned a lot of things from certain people. And I learned a lot from the people who don't even like me. I learned the most through those people. I learned a lot through them. They don't even realize the things that they have said and done that really benefited on me getting up and out of their situation. That's just a little small smidgen of what I've been going through since 2014. Losing my mother and lost my father before I turned 18, I understand the whole thing now. But I thank God for what he is doing now. And you can't get away from it. You can't dodge God. You preach that yourself. You can't dodge God. It came out your own mouth. So I'm thanking God that even through this little bit, I was able to get it out. And I'm okay. God knows what he's doing. And the fact that you're actually coming against God the whole time, that's what you've been doing. You've been coming against God the whole time. And all of these attacks that you're constantly doing, all these checks, I'm fine. You can see now, I'm fine. I'm fine. All these things that you're doing and the things that you're doing using other people, I'm fine. I'm in my right mind. I'm not walking with a legion of demons in me. I'm not walking crazy. I'm not walking in need. God shows me different ways that I can be able to obtain what I need to obtain without coming back to you, because I know that's what you wanted me to do, was come back to you in need of help. And I'm fine. I'm fine. I thank God for teaching me how to be able to survive. I thank God for meeting my every needs. God is worthy to be praised, and he's going to get the glory in this. It's because you've been coming against him. He's going to get the glory. He's going to reign and rule, regardless of how you feel about him.